Hello, Richard Tang, CEO of Zen Internet. Welcome back to my channel. I've interviewed quite a few altnets on this channel, and pretty much all of them have needed huge injections of equity funding and debt funding to get their businesses to go and grow. But is it possible to build an altnet completely organically, just reinvesting profits? Well, if you are Country Connect in South Wales, the answer is yes. I've got Mark Tomlinson here today, CEO of Country Connect and founder of Country Connect, to tell us the story. Mark, a very warm welcome to Zen, a very warm welcome to Rochdale.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Country Connect, tell us the story.
Country Connect started out as a fixed wireless ISP back in 2016 with a very small ambition to serve about 30 to 40 properties in South Wales, primarily connecting my father-in-law who had no internet at the time. So working in technology, when things went wrong, we were visiting, it was a trip in the car to McDonald's. So we started with the fixed wireless, carried on from there. We got to probably 150 customers on the wireless network. And following COVID, I decided it was a good idea to build fibre, mainly driven by the fact that my house was on an exchange-only line at 6 megabits per second. And we went from there.
So you started a full fibre altnet because you had ADSL at home?
Yes. That's the long and the short of it, yes.
And in terms of that organic growth model, talk about that, because everyone else that I've talked to, and when we looked at it ourselves, as soon as you want to build full fibre, like the numbers get very big very quickly. But you managed somehow to build it in a way that you could fund without that external injection of equity.
Absolutely, and we've built it based on profits that we've taken from the other parts of the business. I have put some money into it myself as well, and we've been very customer-focused and community-focused to get to where we are. Ultimately, it's not a scalable model, but it's working for us. We've got a fair bit of connectivity now. I think we're just shy of 10,000 properties RFS and 34% penetration. So it is working for us, but ultimately we've had to, at every stage, connect customers in order to continue building, because that revenue is what we've used then to build the next section of network. To the point where one day we could be building a street, we're doing installs there the next day.
Yeah, so a real micro altnet, just
Absolutely.
Of 10,000 customers. You've got your own vertically integrated ISP as well, providing service to, I guess, 3,000-ish customers?
Something in that region, yeah.
Something like that. And you don't employ that many people. I think your accounts to the end of 23, I think your average workforce was 9. That's a bit out of date now.
I think we're still on 9. We do have a couple of contractors as well, but I think we're still on 9 at the moment. And a lot of this network has been built in-house. We've not used contractors to do it. In fact, I built a lot of the initial part of the network myself and got very, very dirty, did my PIA qualifications, and off we went.
So talk about that. Talk about what it's like as a founder of an altnet to actually get out on the streets and start, I suppose, not digging them up, but using the PIA product, getting up telegraph poles and all that.
Enlightening, I think, is probably the main word. And actually then spotting things that you've never ever seen, and my partner loves it when we go on holiday and we're looking at telegraph poles and drop wires and whether or not they're complying with open reach regulations. But we went into it, we did our qualifications with CTTS in Lincoln, and the initial part of the network was myself and two engineers, only one of which had ever got any telecoms experience, so we were both apprentices, and we built the first section of network from there.
So of you just short of 10,000 RFS, how much have you personally actually built of that?
I was probably involved with at least 3,500, 4,000 of it. And I still go out on the tools today if we need it, if we're ever short, so that we don't let customers down. I still do installs and whatever is needed.
Now, one thing I'm really trying to get my head round is you've got 9 people, you're running a full fibre altnet, which is increasing its RFS. You're running a vertically integrated ISP. You've got VoIP products. You've got the full suite of products. Is that sustainable to do all that? Because I guess your bigger competitors have got hundreds of people doing that. You're doing it with 9. I guess you're all making the tea as well yourself.
Yep.
Is that sustainable long term?
Absolutely. And if we were to stop building today, we are profitable and we have been for some time. But we do invest every single penny that we make into building more RFS and connecting more customers. We are a small team, but from the very start, we invested heavily in systems and procedures. My background is software and a network engineer. So we started very early on with a program called Splinks, which a lot of people will have heard of. We've actually contributed to that code as well and improved that product over the time. So I think we started from quite a strong foundation with regards to systemization and making things no touch. We're now well into our journey with AI and using AI tools within the journey. And the next steps for us is Wholesale with a partner across the UK. And for that to work for us as a team of our size, it's got to be zero touch. It's got to be API first. And they're the sort of things that allow us to do what we do with the team we've got.
So small but perfectly formed by the sound of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's ultimately not scalable much beyond what we are. We're well known individually. We contribute to the community, and there's not much more scale there without going national, which is why we're looking at that option. And it's got to be driven by AI and zero touch.
So in terms of your ambition, you say it's not scalable, but how far can you scale Country Connect from your just short of 10,000 now? How far can you get? How far do you want to get? And over what sort of time scale?
We're looking to get to 20,000 properties total by the end of next year. We're on target to do that at the moment, and that's through various builds in areas that we've identified. We're also part of building connectivity to a number of new built sites, which are very good for us as a small entity, and it allows us to give that customer service, which is what separates us from our competition.
And I believe your build cost is very, very low. Actually, potentially the lowest in the entire industry, is it?
I'd like to think it is, and we've done that through clever buying. We've bought things from suppliers that are liquidating stock. We've bought from auctions. We've negotiated good prices with our upstream suppliers. One thing that we have done is we've built it all in-house, so we haven't got the contractor labour costs, which is one of the things that helps us to keep it as low as it is. We are all PIA, and I think that's probably one of the main benefits that we've had there financially.
So what does your build cost look like in terms of lowest, highest and average?
Average, I think we spend about £180 per premise passed, and we spend roughly £210 per customer connection. So the final drop, the ONTs and things like that.
Nice.
The highest build cost we've probably had is some of the rural stuff around our office, where I think we creeped up to like £250, £300 per prem. And then some of the lowest, we've actually, in denser areas, we've managed to do it for around the £120, £130 mark.
So that is a real fraction of, you look at the rest of the industry, you know, the best performers are probably Netomnia at about £300, and then some are up to 1,000, 1,500. Some of the rural players are up 1,500, 2,000 a premise.
Absolutely. And again, I think it comes back down to those buying choices. Stock's not always available at those costs, but when it is, I'm watching for it, I'm out there and I'm trying to secure those prices to keep us going.
But even with such low build costs, and let's use a round number to make the maths easy, so let's say £200 a premise to build. Obviously, you've got connection fees on top of that. If you want to build another 10,000 by the end of next year, I work that out as you're still going to need to find £2 million from somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
To fund that. So where's that money going to come from?
It's coming from profits, and we're not just an ISP. We've started with MSP services. We did that from back in 2021. So the part of our revenue comes from that. We also get involved in project work, whether it's private fibre builds or enterprise services. We also then get involved with supplying network and connectivity services to third parties as well.
So most of the industry, most of the altnet world are looking for their exit.
Yep.
At some point. But you own the company, so you are a master of your own destiny at the moment. If you look longer term, are you looking for an exit, or are you thinking, I'm going to be fiercely independent forever?
I know we spoke off camera and everybody's got a number, but ultimately I'm looking to build a generational business, one that my children can come and work in years to come. And I see it as building an asset which will pay me long term rather than a short term exit and walk away to the sunshine.
But there is a number.
Of course there's a number, yeah. I don't know what that number is, but of course everybody's got a number.
And if I was to push you for, what sort of... I'm sort of thinking of the build cost, so the amount that you've put into the build so far. So I guess in round numbers, you've put £2 million into the build, and then you've got the connection costs, which is probably another, 600k or something like that. And then there's building the business. So if someone came along and offered you, 5 million or 10 million for the business, are those the sort of numbers that... I'm fishing, obviously.
Absolutely. I think if somebody offered me 10 million, I'd probably take it. The one thing I'm not looking to do is stop working. I enjoy what I do, and I'm not looking to go and live a life on a beach. So the number would have to be right. And as I said, this for me is about building a future, something for my children, something that will support us for the longer term.
So let's just pursue that. So building a business for your children, absolutely fantastic. In my mind, we're going through a period in this decade of lots of change and opportunity, lots of full fibre networks, building and talking about consolidation. But into the 2030s, my expectation is that we'll have seen lots of consolidation, and we'll end up with a very small number, maybe 3 or 4 national players. We might have a few niche rural players in there. But I'm imagining this situation that, let's say you get to your 20,000 RFS figure, or maybe even a bit beyond that, but you're now competing squarely with the whole rest of the industry, including potentially Zen, or your kids are doing that. And I just want to get your thoughts about, actually, with the business model you've built, is that something that you think you can do successfully, or is there a point where the market is so mature that your scale is just not, it's just going to be too much of a disadvantage?
I'm not entirely sure is the answer with that, but what we have done is we've heavily focused on being integrated with the communities that we're present in, and a lot of the service that we sell is to people rather than the product. We're not the cheapest. We're certainly not looking to race to the bottom like some providers are, and I do think that broadband prices will mature over the next few years, because the altnets like us are using price as a way to onboard customers at the moment. So I do think ARPU will go up slightly, and we've experienced overbuilding part of our network, and that actually helped our uptake rather than decrease it, which initially scared me when we were being overbuilt, but it did prove that we're part of the community and they trust what we do. And the one thing that I always set out to do was to provide excellent customer service. It's as important as the connection itself.
Yeah. And let's just talk about that overbuild, because I'm really interested in how increased competition helps your take-up.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were overbuilt by Virgin Media or nexfibre in mid-2023. They used a mixture of PIA and digging to complete the patch that we'd already built. They caused a lot of frustration within the village and within the community with the way that they'd done it with the contractors, and we actually saw orders continue to go up. We did initially churn a couple of customers to Virgin Media. They both came back within 2 weeks of leaving. So that was a real positive and a win for us. The difference between our network and Virgin Media is we only build where PIA is available. So the areas which are direct in ground, we haven't touched those, and that's where Virgin Media has obviously then gone in and built that.
Yeah. And of your nearly 10,000 RFS, how much is overbuilt today?
Probably about 3,500, 4,000. So almost half of it
all
is
by
overbuilt.
nexfibre.
All by nexfibre, yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about wholesale. You touched on wholesale a bit earlier. So what are you thinking at the moment? Obviously, you've got your own ISP today, but wholesale, where does that figure?
Wholesale is on the horizon. The problem that we have is that we're such a small micro entity. The cost of integration for any meaningful ISP to actually integrate with us is too high. So we are looking at options to like the Fibre Cafe,
Yeah.
whether that's something that we do in the future. But before that, we're looking to wholesale the other way. We're looking to find a national partner at the moment and offer Country Connect services across different networks throughout the UK.
Yeah. And you're talking to Zen?
We're talking to Zen and a couple of others.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I won't comment any further on that then. And then looking at the wider market, so this interview reminds me a little bit of the interview I did with Tom Rigg from Barn, who, when I spoke with Tom, he gave me the impression that, you know, they're doing their own thing and the sort of world is out there happening. And there is some distance between what's happening in the world, but it must be interesting looking at nexfibre and the other big players and the dynamics in the market. And you must have views and thoughts about how that's all going to shape out.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest ones that I saw for a long time from our position of being a micro entity is when the altnets were racing to cover RFS, which seemed very strange to me. They weren't commercialising on it as they went. And now the shift has then changed from build to commercialisation and signing customers up. Whereas we had to do that throughout in order to survive and get to the next section of build, which is very different. And I think ultimately a lot of the altnets were positioning themselves to build quick enough so that they could be acquired. And I do see that the whole altnet fibre build is a repeat of what happened with the cable companies in the early 2010s.
Yeah.
I think consolidation is definitely coming. I think there's a couple of people which might be that consolidator. And I agree with your earlier point. I think there will be a couple of niche players out there in the rural space like GigaClear.
Yeah. And in terms of how the consolidation might play out, have you got any thoughts about who might acquire who or who might do a share swap with who?
There's always rumours and speculation out there within the multi-altnet community. My personal thoughts, I think it's either going to be CityFibre or Netomnia. I think it could be either at the moment. I think there's a couple of things happening, like the CityFibre debt raise, which is going to prove pivotal to which way things go.
Yeah, okay. And the last question is about BDUK, because I guess what you're doing seems to fit in some ways very well with BDUK, particularly the rural stuff you did initially.
Yep.
But what are your thoughts about BDUK?
We've not really done much with BDUK. We did look at it in the early days. Given our size and resources, it was really challenging to actually present them with a plan which would stack up. So we decided not to, and we've not looked back since. Everything that we've built has just been commercial and self-funded.
And is there any opportunity with the voucher scheme or anything going forwards, or have you written off BDUK? You're just going to do your own thing?
We've pretty much written off BDUK and decided to do our own thing.
Okay. Well, look, it seems to be going great on a micro scale. It does remind me a little bit of the growth of Zen. I mean, we grew organically since 1995 and managed to make that work. And I very much hope that 30 years on, Country Connect is going strong. But Mark, huge thanks for your time today and sharing your insights.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
And thank you very much for watching. See you again soon.
Cheers.